who, in your mind, who's the starting other guard?
First of all, did you say Oubre Jr.? Come on, bro. It's Oubre Jr. Man, get it together. First of all, you got to get the names right.
Okay.
You get your names right for all these stats
Well,
you do?
first
You
of
can't
all,
get the names right?
You know, Anthony wants the big. Everyone's got the big three. Anthony wants like the big 10.
Five would do. Just give me a starting five.
What do you think? Like,
Okay. All right. Stop the shenanigans.
all of a sudden.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Matter of Stats podcast. Colby and Anthony with you. Billy is still on Christmas vacation. So we are back after a little mini break last week ourselves. Welcome back, Cope.
What's happening? I'm a little under the weather today. I was at crypto yesterday for the game, and I think one of those Boston fans infected me, man.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, so I was fine at the game. Everything was all good at the game. You know, I was having a blast. I was hanging.
It wasn't all good.
Hanging with your boy, Aaron. Yeah, I know, right? We're gonna get to that. Hanging with your boy, Aaron Cohen, though, from Lakers all day, every day. Did a little tribute with him out front, so it was fun. But yeah. I'm here. I had to be here. You know, got the that's Mamba T. You know, so had to be here to represent, and I'm here. Mamba mentality. Let's go.
Hey, it's always nice when you cop the free gear, right?
Yeah, got hooked up yesterday. It was a fun day.
Yeah, no, it looked like it. Like I said, we'll talk about that later. But all right, before we get started, we like to always remind everybody to please check out the Matter of Stats podcast anywhere you get your podcast. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on IG and X. So we got some headlines here over the last couple of weeks. The Chargers, they cleaned house last week. They fired their head coach, Brandon Staley, and their GM, Tom Telesco. So there'll definitely be some new people in charge there next year. Former UCLA quarterback Dante Moore, who entered the transfer portal a couple weeks ago, he is going to go to Oregon. So they're going to replace Nix with Moore. So not a bad move there for we see it for the Oregon Ducks. Grizzlies all-star guard Ja Morant, he made his return to the NBA last week after he was finishing the rest of his suspension that took him out of the first 25 games. So he returned. So good for Ja and the Grizzlies. I think they won a couple games immediately right with him back in the lineup. Yeah. Also in some additional huge baseball news, the Dodgers, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, they didn't stop with just one. Now they got two. They signed the Japanese star pitcher Yoshinobu Yamamoto to a 12-year, $325 million deal with a $50 million signing bonus. So I think...
I was going to say, doing everything Anthony loves, man. Building that super team.
I love it. Spend the money, baby. Spend the money. I picture Andrew Freeman, like that scene in Jerry Maguire when he's on the phone just going, show me the money. I picture that's what he's doing in his office.
Yeah. Unlimited money over there in the MLB, huh?
Oh, no salary cap. So Dodgers have it, and they are spending it. So it is, for a Dodger fan, it is definitely fun to see. Also, this week we'll do our NFL updates. Been a couple weeks, but just this week we'll recap. Lions and Eagles with some nice victories. Jags suffered a tough one as they got kind of whooped up on a little bit, and the Panthers lost again. So nothing new there.
I think we just barely lost too, and it was like a field goal at the end.
It was actually close. You're right. It was very close. It was close the whole game. In some boxing news, the mega fight between Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua apparently is now in jeopardy, and it's unclear whether the fight will even take place as Wilder lost his bout with Joseph Parker over the weekend. So that is seriously some big boxing news right there. And lastly, the NBA All-Star voting began last week, so please make sure you get your votes in for your Lakers, LeBron, AD, maybe a little Austin Reeves. Let's try to get our Lakers back in the All-Star game this year. So they'll be playing that game, I think, in Indianapolis, right? I think they play in Indiana this year. So that's our headlines. Kobe, thoughts concerns,
How,
questions?
how many times you voted today? How many times you voted?
Today, just one. Well, technically, you're only allowed to vote once a day unless you use.
I know you got some
email
burner
addresses.
accounts. Yeah, I know
Unless
you
you
got
use
some burner
Gmail.
accounts.
I'm not saying I do or do not do that, but I did vote. I hope you voted yesterday on Christmas because the votes counted triple yesterday. So
Nah, I was preoccupied, man. I told you I was doing
I
my
know.
thing. But yeah, no, I mean, a lot of good headlines. Ja looks good. Obviously we saw his game winner last week. Man, I mean, other than looking a little gassed, I mean, he looks like he hasn't really lost a step. So, it'll be fun to see how the rest of this season for him and the Grizzlies play out. Definitely a bummer about Wilder and Joshua. I mean, Anthony Joshua had made some comments after his fight with Otto Wallin about, still wanting that fight and still wanting to make it happen. But like I had said a couple weeks ago, that fight might already be 5 years too late. And then on top of that, you don't even, fulfill your obligation and get the win on Saturday, and you end up losing. In Wilder losing to Joseph Parker. So now I don't know how much demand's really going to be there for that fight, but we did see some fun stuff with Francis Ngannou, former UFC heavyweight champion, was quote unquote licking his lips watching that Wilder fight because that might be something that he would entertain with Deontay Wilder, and maybe that would probably be the better route because Wilder's kind of on a losing streak right now, and he probably needs something where he can get a win, and maybe he sees possibly getting a win over Francis Ngannou, who's only had one fight against Tyson Fury, and some people would argue he won that fight, but I wouldn't. But I mean, that could be an entertaining fight. So So
yeah. I mean, you definitely said it. You can see the difference. The Grizzlies obviously have not had a great season, but Ja comes back, and I think they won 2 games. The first 2 games he played like right out of the gate. So you can definitely see what a difference a star makes in the NBA when you just literally insert him into the lineup and bang, win-win.
Yeah, I was listening to the Hoop Collective probably a week or 2 ago, and it was funny because I think McMahon kind of partially covers the Grizzlies, or maybe he does cover the Grizzlies, I don't know, but he was like, yeah, Memphis, they don't see themselves out of this, I mean, yeah, they got off to a slow start or whatever, but they're only, 5 games out of the play-in, and Wendy was like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me they're only 5 games out of 10th place?
I know, it sounds kind of funny.
Yeah. I thought I was telling a funny joke, but you didn't look like you were humored by my joke there.
No,
but,
sorry.
Yeah, you were frozen.
No. Yeah, well, you were frozen on my end, so I don't know what happened there. So you saw me frozen and I saw you frozen? Is that what happened?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
So we'll see how the final video comes out.
Okay.
And yeah, for anyone listening on audio, obviously, now we're letting it be known we're actually on video for this episode. So I had to come on because, like I said, I had to wear my, that's Mamba tee that I just got yesterday from the game on Christmas Day. So I had to represent. So I told Anthony, let's do video today, man. It'd be fun.
Yeah. No, like I said, the t-shirt looks good. Look, clean and fresh. White t-shirts are hard to keep clean, so you got to wear it before it gets dirty.
I don't know about you, but especially since Kobe passed away, anything like authentic Kobe, I haven't thrown out since then. I have everything. I have a couple I have a pair of Mamba Rages that have completely fallen apart, but I will not throw them away. I still have them, and I don't know if you're kind of the same way, but I haven't thrown any authentic or any Kobe gear away at all, period.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. I don't think, I think when you have somebody that you admire and care so deeply about, like most Laker fans do, and Kobe, anything and everything you keep. But I think sometimes, dude, just as a guy, don't you have that old T-shirt or sweatshirt that, your wife hates? And she's like, why do you still wear this thing? It's got holes in it. I mean, you just nah, I like it.
So, yeah, some of my stuff has turned up missing. I'm pretty sure Esme just Goodwilled it, But
hey, I know, I get it.
It's tough, man. When it's Goodwill time, when she's like, let's start, getting some stuff together to take. It's tough. I have 15 shirts, and I'll put one of those in there, and I'll be like,
I know,
I can't even part with that one.
I know. She's like, I don't understand. Why do you have 7 of these? I said, but they're all a little different.
Oh man, yeah, the struggle's real.
Yeah.
Struggle's
I
real.
know she don't. Yeah, they don't get it. They don't get it. They don't get the life of a sports fan. It's not. It's not an easy. It's not an easy life.
Nah, not at all. Not at all.
It's not an easy life. Um, speaking of not an easy life, the Lakers right now are definitely not living the easy life. They are really struggling since returning from Vegas. Since obviously taking care of business and winning the first ever in-season tournament, the Lakers have not looked like the same team that was in Vegas. I don't know if they left those guys in Vegas and brought back some different guys, but something has not been the same. They're 2-6 since winning the tournament. They lost 4 straight, and they weren't all like good losses, right? They lost to a Dallas team without Kyrie. They lost to a Knicks team at home. They lost to the Bulls team, without Levine. They got, beat handily by Minnesota. I know LeBron didn't play in that game. Then of course they get the quote unquote must win against Oklahoma City, but that game, I mean, it wasn't pretty. They give up 120 points in a victory. And then of course, yesterday, as Kobe got to witness firsthand, the Celtics, just kind of did whatever they wanted to do for about 3 of the 4 quarters yesterday, except for that second quarter. The Lakers made that really nice run to, get back into it, and actually took the lead for a second there early in the third, but then it was just too much Celtics, down the stretch. They shot over 50% and just really, had their way, and the Lakers struggles really on both sides of the ball, but particularly the offense. This team just has not been. We talk about the 3-point shooting, obviously, which we know is well documented, but just in general, the Lakers offensively are not an efficient team. They don't score. They're middle of the pack in scoring. Defensively, they're still, I think, coming into yesterday's game, I think they were still the 6th highest rated defensive team in net rating. They were ranked 6th in net rating. But offensively, they're in the bottom 5 in just about every category. And now with Gabe Vincent seemingly going to miss 2 months, I don't know what it is with us and these Miami guards, but we just cannot. No more former Miami guards, because they, for whatever reason, seem to come over here and get jinxed. Winning habits. It should say injury habits.
We got this yesterday too. This was part of our our merch or the program, and it I looked at it and I was like, well, this is kind of awkward,
I know. Did it come with a giant bandage over it?
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, I think you pretty much summed it up. I mean, but being in the building last night, it was fun. The crowd was electric, everyone was pumped. We were hyped. Margaritas, 2 of those will run you about $100 right now, just so you know. Well, it's probably because of Christmas Day thing, so 2 margaritas, $100. That was, yeah.
They got to pay for that T-shirt you're wearing.
Yeah. Obviously the Mamba tee. We got a cool scarf, again, the program. It was like they were just throwing stuff at us. Beers were $25 a piece. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It was wild. But
so at the end of the day, it's not really free merch.
Yeah, exactly. We kind of thought, like, by mistake, when like they handed us the little like terminal so we could like pay with our tap, like I kind of thought they accidentally added like 3 rows worth of like tabs to our tap. It's like, what? $180 for a couple margaritas and some nachos. It was crazy. Yeah, it was legit. Christmas. But yeah, no, I mean, it was a rough game for the most part. I mean, like you said, they went on a little run in the second. But after, they pulled away in the third, we can never really close that gap again, so. Yeah. And then we got off to like like 12-0 to start the game, so. Oh
yeah. Well, we were down 19 points, I think, in the first quarter.
Yeah. But like I was texting you guys, like it always felt, electric throughout the game. Like we were going to make a run, like we were actually, because you were texting us like third quarter, you're like, this game's over. I'm like, no. We can pull this out. But, once again, you were on your Miss Cleo last night. You predicted it, you're right. So, Yeah, I mean, not a great game. And you look at the
Mhm.
Celtics; they had a more balanced offense. I think like every starter averaged like almost 20 points, pretty much. Where we got
Mhm.
guys like Cam and Torian that are only scoring a couple buckets. That's not going to get it done in our starting five. And you alluded to it. You
Yeah.
mentioned it. With this offense. I don't know if like maybe because we kind of got we got the win obviously against OKC with that starting
Mhm.
lineup,
Right.
and it kind of led to this whole like, well, it worked. Let's see if it'll work again. But do you think that
Mhm.
that's a lineup, for the long term that's sustainable?
No, I don't think it's sustainable. I don't
Right.
think Austin Reeves off the bench is the long-term plan. I mean, obviously he's closing games, so I think the Lakers realize that whatever best lineup they have has to have LeBron, Reeves, and Anthony Davis in it. But I understood the move for a couple reasons against OKC, right? D'Angelo had really been struggling.
Yeah.
So, it made sense to make a change. I know that, there's been some buzz that he's not particularly happy coming off the bench, which was the problem last year, if you remember. The Lakers wanted to bench him in that Denver series, but they felt like he would just check out if they brought him off the bench. But still, I get it. It made sense. Plus, you bring in a bigger defensive unit going up against a guy like SGA, who's so difficult to stop. But the irony in that game, yeah, it worked, but they gave up 120 points with the
Yeah.
defensive lineup. They gave
Yeah.
up 39 in the first
The first
quarter with
quarter.
their
Yeah.
supposed defensive lineup. So it didn't really work. It just like appeared like it worked because the Lakers offensively were just on that night. They made a lot of threes. They scored at will. They were able to, get out in transition. They just played a really good offensive game. But
Yeah.
then you saw yesterday against a better, more well-rounded team that has two very good, strong, physical defensive guards that can put pressure on the Lakers in the half court. And the Lakers don't shoot the three well. So, you see the times LeBron's got it, ISO, he attacks, literally just all green around him, and they're going to live with Rui or Prince or Reddish or whoever is on the floor taking those open threes. Any team is going to live with that because they're going to play the averages that, one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the league isn't going to make it. And you said yesterday, the Celtics starting lineup is very good. Their bench is their only real question mark, but all five of those starters yesterday, I think, had at least 15 points. Plus, they had a Pritchard or somebody off the bench with 11. And the Lakers starting lineup, like you said, Vando and Reddish combined to make 4 shots. 4 shots.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I know Ham's gotten a lot of criticism about the lineups and the decisions and stuff, and some of it is fair, but some of it is also there isn't really a great offensive lineup that he can put out there. There isn't some perfect where why doesn't he just play these 5 guys? That's the obvious choice because we just don't have that type of team right now. Way back in the, at the beginning of the season, we did our, preseason, pod. We were talking about, our predictions and stuff. That was my biggest concern was this team going to be good enough offensively? Did they improve enough in the perimeter shooting and the overall offense? Because that was the issue with the team last year is they made all those, obviously before the trade with, Westbrook and Beverly, that team was very challenged offensively, had very little size. They made the trade. That team was obviously significantly better offensively and defensively, but still wasn't elite offensively. You could see that. And Denver obviously took advantage of that and exposed the fact that we didn't have enough, to compete to be a legitimate champion.
Well,
So you
it's
roll
just
back.
let me just say
Yeah.
real quick because that was something that at that time when we had Russ and he was clogging the paint, defenses were just clogging the paint on us. All you really said you wanted was you didn't even say we needed a third star. We just needed a competent, floor spacer, a 3-point shooter that could, open up the lanes for LeBron and AD, right? And I think Rob went out and got that guy in D'Lo who was shooting like 40% in Minnesota,
He did. And Beasley. I still liked Beasley. I wish we would
And
have kept
Beasley, yeah.
Beasley.
And
I still
Beasley.
liked Beasley.
Beasley's having a nice season this year. And so we still have the 3-point shooting, right? We still have D'Lo. He's still able to space the floor for LeBron and AD. I know he's struggling right now, but we've also proven that we could win. We could win with this group because we just won the in-season tournament. We were looking like the best team in the league. And I just don't know that, going out and making trades or making moves is really the answer. And I know that's our next topic. We're going to get into that right now. But again, I was just kind of trying to make the point about D'Lo when we had Russ, which was we don't need the third star thing. We just need a competent floor spacer that could help us, with LeBron and AD situation and not clog the paint. And we went out and got that. And now all of a sudden it just seems like we're back in that cycle that we see, that little meme cycle on Instagram, where it's like you get your hopes up and then Lakers start playing bad and so.
Well, and it's a fair point, but I always think when you take last year's team and you transition to this season, you saw what last year's team was capable of. So you say, okay, if we're going to roll this group back, now we just have to get a little bit better, right? We need a little more length, a little more shooting. And that was my whole thing is were these moves enough to get the Lakers that extra, whatever they needed to be able to get to that point and win those games instead of losing them, because all those games against Denver were close. It was just a matter of we're a little short. So were these moves enough to create that deficiency? And we talked about it like in the preseason, right? Lakers were lights out from 3, right? We were all like, oh man, this seems too good to be true. And now it's sort of like, the carriage has turned back into a pumpkin. And these guys are, shooting, I should say, the way that we thought they were going to shoot. And now you're right. We're back into the same predicament where how do we find a way to be better? And my whole thing is it's not just 3-point shooting. I just think offensively overall, this team, that's where the biggest deficiency is how to get easy buckets, how to make open shots, how to not have every possession be a grind, because that's what makes it hard to come back. Like you said yesterday, you felt like the Lakers were always going to make a run. But when you get down 12, 13 points, if you don't have those guys that you can drive and kick and give you like back-to-back threes, so you cut that 13-point lead, boom, right down to 7. It's hard to grind out when everything has to be a pass to AD in the post and he's doubled, or LeBron attacks and he's doubled. So that's where it gets hard.
Yeah, that and Scott Foster. Scott Foster will pop you.
However. Never make such a big deal, but he paused. However,
I know.
There's still a foul.
Yeah, that was a fun little moment to be a part of. But So moving into our next topic, why don't you lead us there?
Yeah. So obviously, we know the Lakers record 2-6. We talked about it over this stretch. Kobe alluded to it. This team looks like a team that can win when they need to. Maybe, right? But then they come out and they lay all these eggs and they look like a totally different team and they struggle. And, it just kind of starts to beg the question, can the Lakers struggles be fixed? What can this group do, either externally or internally to really try to, fix what's causing this team to not play well?
Yeah. And, I mentioned it, I think on the last pod where, I said, when this team is dialed in, we look like championship contenders, and when we're not dialed in, I don't even know if we're going to make the play-in, and it's so strange. I can't think of a time when we saw a team like that. Obviously we've never seen kind of like the in-season tournament factor, but I mean, to see a team play so dominant and just so dialed in. And, we saw the clip of, the game against Indiana, like right before when like they were doing the whole red carpet thing and Miles Turner's out there like talking to people and AD just walks by him, like doesn't even say what's up, doesn't say hi, just goes right by him because he's so focused, he's so dialed in. And it's like, it's literally as soon as that tournament's over, It's like guys are going, back to being on,
Now we can chill.
now I got a sore knee. Yeah. Now I'm injured. People are playing kind of lackadaisical defense. I think it was the game after the Bulls where James Worthy had made the comment where he was like, when we're on defense, like we're not even putting a hand up like in passing lanes. Like if you at least even do that, that decreases the chances of, somebody passing the ball through that lane. It narrows that window, and we don't even do that, So and that's literally after the tournament. So it's like I don't really know like what's going on behind the scenes or what, but I almost kind of thought like, when we're losing here in this last stretch that we were about to have a players only meeting pretty soon. It felt like that was kind of coming,
Yeah.
But obviously hasn't. But yeah, man. I don't know that I don't know that a trade, like I said, fixes anything because we have proven already this season that we have what it takes to win at a high level. So if anything, a trade could potentially make it worse because then you're kind of undoing some of that continuity that you rallied around in the offseason.
Yeah.
So I don't think that there's anything that the front office can really do to fix this. This is something that the Lakers just have to look inside the mirror, look in the mirror, look inside themselves and figure it out because I don't know what the hell's going on. Honestly.
Well, how much of it, because Ham and even some of the players like LeBron talked about fatigue, right? And I know it has been a little bit of a rough stretch since they came back from Vegas. And part of that is just the schedule of the tournament, because if you win, then you advance and you basically played 2 games in a week, right? The Lakers only played basically twice that whole week. But then because of that, you come back and then now you play like 6 games out of like 10 days or something like that because of the way they had to construct the schedule to make the tournament work, right? So it does somewhat the Pacers and the Lakers who had to go all the way to the end, it is somewhat a little bit of a struggle because they did get whatever you want to call it, a little shafted by the way the schedule unfolded because they got that far. So is it fair to use that as an excuse or not?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is because, I think Indiana at the time that LeBron made those comments, like, oh, like, well, have you checked Indiana's record lately? Yeah, they were like 1-4 too after the tournament, So I guess if both teams are having that issue, then I guess it's fair. I mean, obviously we don't know because it's a small sample size. We'll see in years to come if that's the case every single time, or a majority of the time. But, it is what it is. We got to figure it out. At the end of the day, these guys got, nice little budgets. LeBron spends $1 million on his body. These guys got professional chefs. These guys got all the, massage therapists and all the technology that they need to be prepared and be ready for these games. So,
and an extra $500K to get through the rest of the season.
Yeah, man. They got that $500K. They've been checked out since then.
Yeah,
no.
It seems like it. And I know you are never you and I. This is where it's so great because you and I always differ. I am always pro trade. You are always anti trade.
Figure it out. Yeah,
I believe this is like I know, but you are always trade is like the last resort. And I think you literally like what you said a few moments ago was almost like exactly what you said last year when the Lakers were in an even worse situation, and you were like, I don't think a trade's going to solve it. They got to figure it out. And obviously. It helped, and because I'm always like, a trade is not going to solve all your problems. Like you're not going to go from worst to first because you make one move, right? Yeah. But I always think a trade can help some of your problems, just like it did last year. They got rid of some of the distractions in the locker room. They added some shooting, and they were able to gel. And so I think what you're saying is fair. This team is better than last year's team, at least in theory, because we've seen it. Right, we've seen it earlier on than we did last year, but I think maybe not a mega trade, but a smaller trade to add a couple more shooters or a little better defensive guard or something might help fill a few of these problems. Maybe it's a Zach LaVine, Alex Caruso type combo. Maybe it's a DeJounte Murray type of deal, or maybe it's just something smaller. Maybe it's Jordan Clarkson. Maybe it's a Buddy Hield. Maybe it's whatever, just something to add another shooter without jeopardizing the main group. So I think that there's ways to kind of live in your world, but still do some sort of a trade that can benefit the overall improvement of the offense.
Well, and the sentiment from a lot of fans from kind of what I've seen on social media from Laker fans is very similar to mine now. Whereas last year I was on an island pretty much by myself when I was defending Rob, before the trade deadline. I don't think there was a single person on the planet, and this, Anthony, from season 2, episode 24. Yeah, I got receipts. I was the only one defending Rob and what he's been trying to do with this team every offseason to help build around LeBron and AD. And literally by the end of the offseason, everyone's like, oh my God, we all owe Rob an apology. We owe Rob an apology for, what he's done. And so do you, Anthony. You owe him an apology, but you ain't giving it yet.
I said we'll see. See. We win the championship, I'll apologize.
I think that a lot of people do feel like the Lakers should stand pat, maybe make a small move or two. But again, you're hearing a lot of that. Trades aren't gonna fix this. For once, can we just not make a trade and just figure this out, And the thing that concerns me too about the whole trade thing is it's almost like it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, almost with the whole D'Lo thing. For all we know, D'Lo might be struggling with the talks of him being moved, mentally, which I guess, makes me kind of feel like, for me personally, the guy that's always talking about look, if you're not mentally built to be in LA, then, you shouldn't be here. And I've always been a supporter of D'Lo. I've always, had his back and always wanted him to do well here. But if that's the case and he's struggling with some of these trade talks, then now I'm kind of sounding hypocritical, because it's like, man, again, it could be like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because, all we're doing is talking about trading D'Lo. And at the end of the day, that's probably not helping his situation, probably making him play even worse. So we're actually contributing as a fan base to him possibly not playing well. That's just a theory. I don't know if that's the case. We don't know obviously what's going on behind the scenes, or whatever. D'Lo is notorious for saying that he knows when he's getting traded from organizations, he feels it. He says the janitor looks at him differently. So he said that.
Well, the janitor isn't the reason why he went to the bench.
But I'm just saying, so we got to be careful too. When you're on a LeBron team, and everyone kind of knows what happens when you're on a LeBron team approaching February and, trade deadline time and all that, it could take a toll on you. So, again, I just think that this team has proven that they can win, and ultimately need to figure this out. They need to figure it out from within. So,
well, and I think the Lakers are in kind of a interesting spot, because you want to do whatever you can to maximize the opportunity to win, probably right now and maybe next year. But then at some point, LeBron is going to retire. He's going to be 39 this week, right? So you can't.
What do you got it circled on your calendar or what?
You can't put all your eggs in the tomorrow basket, right? So I get that. So it's a little bit of a difficult spot, for Rob and the organization, because do you go all in, or do you kind of go half all in? Because typically when you go half all in, it never really works. So I get it. It's tough, but you're right. I mean, D'Lo, maybe it is messing with him, but if he's asked to come off the bench, he can't be kind of, saying, I don't really want to come off the bench, but I'm not happy about it, but I'll do it. Because to me, that's just as problematic as your theory, as him not being mentally focused because his names are in trade rumors. Because I don't think Austin Reeves wanted to come off the bench either, but did he do it? Did he do it? He didn't complain about it publicly like D'Lo, seemingly has. But
and
much like
D'Lo's defense comments too were, those were a little troubling as well, to obviously, social media made it bigger than it really was. He wasn't just I don't do that, I don't play defense. What he was trying to say, or what he did say, was I'm an offense first guy, and when it comes to, you guys relying on me to play defense, that's a struggle, because that's not really what I do. So that's what he was saying.
Strength. Yeah, I get it. It's not his
social
strength.
Media was just that's not what I do, defense, ship him out of here. So,
Yeah, maybe he could have phrased it a little differently, but I get what he was trying to say. It just like you pointed out. But it's funny to me because, earlier in the year, didn't D'Lo say he wanted to be like Derek White?
Derek White, yeah.
Yeah.
And we saw that resurface too on some of the memes because they were like, oh, D'Lo just said this. He doesn't want to play D.
Mhm.
But in another frame, he's like, I want to be Derek White,
Yeah. But on the flip side is I would venture a guess that if you asked every GM in the league, they would all say Derek White's a better player than D'Angelo Russell. I don't feel like he should be, but he probably is. And that's part of the issue with a guy like D'Lo is he should be better than a guy like Derek White, but he just isn't. At least he isn't right now. So I don't know. I still believe that the whole reason why D'Lo and Rui and Vando and all these guys were re-signed was just as much need as want. Meaning the Lakers didn't have a lot of other options in the offseason to go make any other moves because they didn't have the cap space. They didn't have the tradable assets because guys were all free agents. So they couldn't sign Kyrie. They couldn't go get a Draymond. They couldn't trade for James Harden or whatever because at that time they didn't have any pieces to do it. Everybody was a free agent. They had to re-sign all their guys. They were already over the cap, so they couldn't sign anybody, else. So they did what made the most sense. Re-signed their own guys for, I think, honestly, two reasons. One, because they knew that it was the best option in the moment. But also, I think they re-signed guys like D'Lo specifically to give themselves trade chips in February because now you can move D'Lo, Rui, Christie, Jalen Hood-Schifino, whatever you want to get maybe somebody that you would have liked to have gotten in July that you just couldn't physically get because you didn't have the assets or the cap room. But now you can go get somebody or some pieces like you would have rather have done then that you weren't able to do. So that's just my, whatever you want to call it, conspiracy theory. But I think that that's why some of these guys were brought back specifically to be used as trade assets later. So I just, again, I totally get all the D'Lo stuff. Everything you're saying makes sense. I would be very surprised if he's on this team past the trade deadline. That's just my opinion.
You'd be very surprised? Interesting.
I'd be very surprised if he's not traded.
You brought up Max Christie though. Just real quick, I just want to shout out Max Christie because he had a Das Mamba moment yesterday at the game. So obviously it was towards the end of halftime, but yeah, he was out there putting up shots all by himself.
Oh, so he did get on the floor.
He got on the floor. Yeah, he was out there putting up shots. But sometimes you need
really?
that. Yeah, you kind of need that little breakaway and that little like I'm just gonna get up shots. Like Kobe used to do after certain games that he lost. He would just be out there, putting up shots, after the games. So it was a very Mamba moment. I know obviously he's not in the rotation right now. Christian Wood not in the rotation either. What is up with that? I don't know.
I agree. I don't understand.
That's your boy right there. He was supposed to be a contributor this year. What's happening?
It's surprising to me. Not as surprising that Christie's not in the rotation just because of the depth that the Lakers have in those wing positions. But to me, Christian Wood should be playing. I don't really think Jackson Hayes is bringing enough to the table. I know he's supposed to be out there for his defense, but you see it every single game. He's active. I always feel like don't confuse high level activity with high level defense. He's moving around and jumping all over the place, but if you check the box score, he's always got more fouls than points or rebounds. So I'm not really sure what he's contributing to when he's out there on the offense or the defensive end. So at least to me, Christian Wood has the potential to give you some offense, even if he's quote unquote maybe not better defensively. But Jackson Hayes isn't out there grabbing 8 rebounds, blocking shots. Like he's fouling people when he's on the floor. So I think Christian Wood should be back in the rotation. But
well, yeah, and that could definitely be the Darvin Ham factor. We know he's a defensive minded coach, and like you said, maybe just the activity alone is what inspires some of his moves as a coach. And we got a guy in Christian Wood who is notoriously known for not playing defense. I saw Darvin Ham yesterday live in person, pretty active with his hands in his pocket. His hands in his pockets.
Was he trying to find a timeout? Was he trying to find a timeout?
Still had those hands in his pockets. Yeah, I got to see it live and in person. It was interesting, but they got to figure it out.
Yeah.
So,
Well, no matter what, they have to figure it out now, because I don't think there's anything the Lakers can do tomorrow that's going to overnight fix it. There's no trade they're going to make, I think, immediately that's going to solve the problems, especially if you're going to make a bigger trade. You have to wait until January when a guy like Rui becomes tradable as far
15,
to attach his contract or something if you're going to go big. So I think you're looking at, at least for the next few weeks, the Lakers are going to have to figure it out.
Yeah,
I'm
not too hopeful. I was
just going to say, I'm not all on the fire Darvin Ham, which has been very popular the last week. Yeah. I think that there's definitely improvements that he could make, but I don't think it's all Darvin Ham's fault.
Yeah, and the irony too is that going into the in-season tournament, like we said, we were playing horribly, and we thought that or like I said, I kind of jokingly was like, imagine if we win this thing, like how much good would that do for our team moving forward? And it's almost like literally like we did the opposite. We won it, which was great. We needed that. We needed this team to rally around something, and we needed to prove that this group could win together. And then it's almost like we literally went back to pre-in-season tournament play, like literally, like
a curse.
I've never seen anything like that. It's just crazy. It's crazy. So
yeah. I mean,
but I think what that proves, though, is that this team has what it takes to win at a high level. So therefore, we shouldn't have to trade. There you go. Case closed.
Hopefully you are correct, and then maybe a trade can just be a cherry on top, right?
Maybe. All right, man. Wrap us up. Get us out of here, man.
All right. Well, that will do it for this week's episode. Of course, we encourage you and thank you for listening to the Matter Stats podcast. To check us out anywhere you get your podcasts, on our IG, on our YouTube page, where you will find this very video, and on X, which, in case you don't know, is now Twitter.
No, other way around.
Sorry, Twitter, which in case you don't know is now X.
Gotta learn to crawl before you can walk, right? Is that how that goes?
Whatever it is, you know where to find it.
All right, cool. All right, guys. Catch you next week. Peace.
Later.